everybody. Welcome back to Real Talk. This is going to be a great episode. It's being produced by two fantastic individuals who actually hosted me here in Calgary to produce this. So we're out of my little dingy studio today and into something a lot more professional than we're used to. So if you don't usually, go check it out on YouTube because it's going to be quite the production. So we'll let these guys introduce themselves and what they do, and you'll get to understand why this is going to be an amazingly produced episode. So yeah, I want to introduce Kyle and David from Faith to Film and Faith Inc. Why don't I just let you guys introduce yourselves and where you're from and what you do, maybe on an individual personal side, and then we'll get into the professional film. So maybe Kyle first.
Sure, yeah, so I'm Kyle Vassis, and I'm from Lethbridge, Alberta, just a couple hours south from here. And super excited to be on here and doing this. Yeah, we've been doing this for a little over a couple years together. I started not in film. I was doing something totally different. David grew up in Calgary, and then I grew up in Lethbridge, but we're cousins, so we kind of saw each other all the time growing up. And I was doing business at university. I did a little bit of HVAC for 4 or 5 years, and then as soon as that ticket was done, I was always doing this stuff on the side with Dave. And we had a passion for it, and we decided to go full-time doing this, and it's been such a blessing ever since.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure. It's I kind of grew up in media. Right now we're in my dad's studio in Calgary, the director's chair. And so I grew up going in on his commercials and being, part of all the productions. Oh, cool. After I finished, even in high school, I was going and doing film classes and stuff like that. But then I went to college, went to SAIT for 2 years for film and video production.
Oh, wow.
And then that was actually the same class my dad took, same teacher even. So this guy, Philip Letourneau, taught 2 generations of Vissers. So that was a pretty cool experience for him. But then right after that, just went into the business, started working with it. And we always had the opportunity to work with the church and film. And that was always such a blessing. Whenever something came up that we could do something for the church or be involved in that capacity, we would. But it was usually then in like a volunteer basis in our spare time, we would try to do it. But we loved doing that. And so after a while of doing that, after a while of working in different industries, I worked for some sets and indie films, as well as I got into real estate shooting and some just different worldly projects. But then while doing those, I decided I don't want to do this anymore. Like, what I like is doing stuff with the church. I want to find a way to use my skills to glorify God as directly as I can. And so at that same time, Kyle and I were spending a lot of time together talking about theology and kind of our passion for it, and we want to get more involved. So at that time, we decided, you know what, we're going to just shoot something. And so we decided to do a documentary on Calvinism. That was our first one. We spent a year shooting that, and that was just in our spare time. Kyle was doing his thing, I was doing mine, and all of our spare time went into making this. I think it turned out okay, but a pretty fun experience.
And we were still in separate cities at that point, because Dave's in Lethbridge now. But at that time, he was in Calgary, I was in Lethbridge. I'd come up every couple weekends, and we'd edit and shoot with different ministers and stuff like that.
That's cool. I've watched it. It looks great.
Oh, okay. That's good. Yeah, you never like to look at your first products that you've made, but I think it does still.
Yeah, we don't go back and watch our first.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, after that, we were like, this is great. And actually, the defining moment kind of for us was we were shooting in Lethbridge with Pastor John Van Eyck, Trinity there. And that was for the Calvinism Project. And while we were sitting down with that, and we had a good amount of time to shoot it. We got prepared really early. We were shooting in the big sanctuary. We got to then shoot with John, and then after it, we were really happy with the project and how it was going and what he said in it, and just getting to sit there in that environment. And Kyle and I looked at each other and we're like, okay, what do we have to do to make this all of our time? Just being able to spend our time with the camera, setting up the gear, making something look good, and then also be just talking about God and Christ and how he's affected us and our theology and history of the church. How do we just make that our life? And so leaving that, we started the Essential Truths Project. We were like, we're going to do a series. We're going to start it actually with Pastor John from Trinity. And we shot how many episodes of that before?
Oh, I think we're up to a little over 30 episodes in the Essential Truths series.
Wow.
Yeah.
And during that process, realizing that we want to do this full time, trying to figure out what we're going to do, we said, okay, Kyle's thinking about maybe does he move to Calgary? I'm thinking, do I move to Lethbridge? We're both going, the other guy should be coming here, right?
Yeah.
And then
So we compromised and he moved to Lethbridge.
yeah,
Right.
well, we went.
Someone won.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you can't beat the housing prices, man. That's a lot better than Calgary.
Yeah.
For sure.
100%.
But and so a couple things like that kind of came into play, and then finally I found a job there. It was during COVID, and so either way, all the work that I was doing was on hold. We're waiting through COVID, not sure what's going to happen with all of that.
Right.
And then it was like the perfect time to be moving, but it was also quite the leap. I took a 6-month contract in Lethbridge for a project that I got put on for a news show, a Christian news show, and they had me do the graphics package there, but then we didn't know what was going to happen after that, but it was all kind of just hoping that was going to work out right.
Oh, that's cool.
And so then I moved, I guess.
Yeah, at that point, still no idea how it was all going to work with the two of us, right? It's not like we had established anything at that point where it's like, hey, come here and we're going to do this together. It was just like, we got to start with being in the same city, and then we can start to grow from there.
Yeah.
And yeah, by the grace of God, it's worked out pretty good, I would say, because we're doing it both full time now. But there was a time where we weren't so sure how it was going to go.
Yeah, that's incredible. Take the leap to go full time is not easy.
Well, and at that time, obviously, it wasn't full time just yet because I had that company I was working with. Kyle was working with other people too. But that transition came from, we were expecting it to be Faith to Film.
Yeah.
But as we started telling people about Faith to Film, they were all like, different Christian organizations and churches started talking to us, being like, oh, well, do you guys do other stuff? And we were like, I guess we can. So then we started doing that, and that's what Faith Inc. is born. And so we got very busy very quickly with that because we just had so much support. It seemed like there was a bit of a vacuum there in us of having really like Christian videographers, media guys. There's not a ton of us. And so the fact that we wanted to start a company with that, it went pretty well.
That's cool,
And so then we got Kyle on full time when we're getting busy with Faith Inc. And then we said, okay, we need to do Faith to Film. So we talked to John Van Eyck again, who's just grown to be like just a big part of our life and a kind of mentor of ours as we do everything. He accepted becoming president of a board for Faith to Film and actually making it a proper nonprofit.
Oh, nice.
And so we talked to him about that, and finally that process is done. We're now nonprofit running properly with a board, and are very excited about that, and are kind of just launching everything now, working on our first project. So
that's awesome. Well,
sorry, go ahead.
Well, we'll just get into it, but just quickly for listeners, like what's the difference between Faith? What are you doing in Faith Inc. and what are you doing in Faith to Film? Just so people understand the difference, and then we'll get into the specifics more.
Yeah,
later.
exactly. So there's the two branches, right? And Faith to Film was kind of the start of it, right? And so that was what's now the nonprofit, and that's where we create all our own videos in-house, like the Essential Truths series, the Calvinism documentary, right? And we, up until now, we're doing that all in our free time, just creating videos on a variety of subjects. And the inspiration for that basically was we wanted to grow in our faith and learn more, and we figured with Dave's skills as a videographer and my ability to edit and create websites and things like that, it's like, well, let's just document it and do it as a hobby, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what Faith to Film is, and that's where we now have the board. Then the Faith Inc. side, we do work with all different Christian organizations, so churches and different Christian groups like RMS, Word and Deed. What are some other ones? Plants and Pillars, ARPA, right? And so just doing either video content or websites. We do a lot of websites with those groups.
Yeah.
And churches, we do a lot of church websites.
Just producing the promotional material there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because there's a bit of a vacuum as far as Christian media and websites, right? There's a lot of good groups out there, and they struggle a little bit more with the tech side of things, right? Yeah. And we're hoping to fill that a little bit.
Yeah. Obviously, there's some benefit as well of us just being incredibly passionate about what they're doing, because we get to support Christian organizations that are trying to fulfill the Great Commission. Like, what a great thing to get involved in.
It's honestly such a blessing. Like, you think, the Faith to Film side of things, that's where you draw your inspiration from, and that's what you're passionate about. But we're equally passionate working with all these different organizations, because we want their brand to grow and their reach to grow just as much as we want Faith to Film's brand to grow and reach to grow, right? So it's pretty cool getting to come alongside all these different organizations and share in the excitement of increasing their online presence.
That's cool. Where did that come from for you guys? Like the passion for the mission side of it. Like, why is that something that you're like, we should do this and not just work for a news organization or media or whatever?
I think God does that.
That's a big part of it. He just calls you to it, right? Like I don't have a great answer for something specific. I think kind of what you mentioned about we were doing it together for Faith to Film, making that video. And that was just, we both felt called in that moment of this is really cool and we want to devote our lives to this, right?
Yeah.
And it's grown from there. And everything that happens as far as the Faith to Film side or the Faith Inc. side, we just continue to get excited about what God is doing through it and for all these different organizations and getting to be a part of it with everyone.
Yeah.
It's so incredible.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, as a business guy, I'm like, whenever run a business, and I think like the passion that you have for it is what some people want to see on the church side, like the Faith Inc. side. These guys would see like, okay, well, these guys actually believe what they're doing and not just trying to make a buck, trying to build a video because there's a gap in the market, right? Like that's super valuable to see. So yeah, that's great. So maybe let's just talk about like you guys got going. How did you guys like? You got it off the ground. Did you like have a whack of cameras and you just started like, you started producing on the Faith to Film side and then just kind of made it work and then muddied your way into it full time or what?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I had camera equipment kind of building over time. I was doing it for a few years and we've upgraded quite a bit over time as well. And then obviously having the anchor of my dad's business director's chair as kind of a place for us to go and one, get advice, but then also the help of support of 20 years of, the equipment and the company that's been built from that really helped us kind of get off the ground whenever we need a lens or something like that. There's always, it's nice that we can come there and have a little bit, but then we've also bought a lot more equipment ourselves. And so that's a big focus for us is just increasing our quality, one, in our abilities. It is an art and you have to keep giving yourself to it. And so for editing and design and lighting and all those things, we have to keep growing in those capacities. But then you also need the kit to complement that. Yeah, right. And so we spend money on that as we can.
And things get outdated very fast in film. If you're not buying a new kit every 2 years, it seems, you don't have the latest stuff and you can't create the latest products. So it's important to stay on top of it.
So we've noticed that on the podcast. I'm sure our listeners have. Oh, this is going downhill somehow.
You got the content that holds it up, right? That's important too. You can't just have the bells and whistles. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, so how did you guys like? I mean, obviously you're almost pushed into film because your dad's doing it. But like, why is it like? Why film? Why not like? I mean, we picked podcast. Obviously, it's like a way to do what we wanted to do, get this content out. But like, why is that something that isn't maybe even needed on the the organization, churches, and Word and Deed, like, why is it that's your passion? Yeah,
for sure. And there was definitely a developed love for it, right? So growing up in it and stuff, you get interested naturally, but I think I also just had an inclination towards it always. And it was something that I was good at, right? You take all your classes in school. One of them for me was film and animation, and that was my favorite class.
Yeah, it's been a pretty crazy fit actually how we've gone together because you're very creative and I'm very technical, and those two, sometimes it creates a bit of a conflict for like direction of which way you want to go, but overall I think it comes through with a pretty nice product.
Well, maybe we could just talk about like what you have worked on. Like maybe let's just dive into a little bit into those things. Like the Calvinism series is obviously your first one,
right?
You got into the Essential Truth series. How did those? What are those things, and then how do they all come about? And
so the Essential Truth series that came from, I think it was R.C. Sproul who did it. He did like a Reformation study Bible, and he even did a book called The Essential Truths of the Christian Faith. And so it came from that, right? He's got all these different topics: the omnipresence of God, the triunity of God.
Right.
At that time, we got the Reformation study Bible. I think we both got it separately, not even knowing we each had one. And all these same topics are in there. And it was just, at that time, we were thinking of what to do next. It was right after the Calvinism video.
Yep.
And we thought it'd be cool to do a video on each one of these.
Our focus was to try to give an explanation with all these different topics that are covering everything of our faith, right? And so R.C. Sproul does such a good job with those, just covering everything that we have. But we didn't want to just use his words exactly. It's like, then go to the book. We always write reference material on the bottom for people to grab the book, do more learning, grab your Bible and learn it. That would be the best way. But these are just tighter, usually 3-minute versions, animated, that we had Pastor John, in this case, give his take on it, what he had on those subjects, but not copying them exactly, right?
Yeah, right.
So we wanted to avoid plagiarism.
Yeah, of course.
Well, it's good. But when I go through those those little short films, like, I mean, they all make good podcast episodes.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we should just follow this whole
Well,
list.
and that's really what it
sure.
was, right? It wasn't like, oh, we want to replicate the content that's in here. It was just topic ideas, right? These are a bunch of good topics to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does Reverend Van Eyck have to say about it?
Yeah.
And that was kind of the whole series. And it was great,
Yeah.
but it was also a lot more difficult to animate some of those concepts, right? Obviously, we have the issue of the image of God and not displaying who God is in like form, right? And yet we are doing things like the omnipresence of God and the omniscience of God and a video on the image of God. And it's like, how are we supposed to animate this, you know? So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's a challenging.
Yeah.
We used, we had a Bible study when I was back in Hamilton, and we used a series by R.C. Sproul. I think it was just a lecture series he did that someone broke into pieces, and we used it as a Bible study. And I thought the same thing with these. Like, it would be great to like just take this video, and that's your start of your study.
Yeah.
Here, like, watch this video, everybody, and then just go into, like, everyone dig into this in the way that they see, you know, whatever interests them. And like, you could have great discussions on these things.
Yeah, totally.
I thought that was like,
Well, and we're hopeful to do that still as well for the Essential Truth series. We want to be adding study material with each of them as soon as we're able to. That's the plan. So I can totally agree.
So how are you able to? So how did you get? Was this a whole you did the Calvinism thing as a volunteer, just to guys volunteer. You guys just But the Essential Truths, like, did you guys get funding for that, or how?
Yeah, we
Instead of the
did.
goodness of your goodness, like, that's great. That doesn't feed you very long.
No. We did 35 videos about without feeding my family.
Well,
Yeah, that was all on the side for those 35 videos.
Yeah.
And then we started that series while you were still in Calgary.
Yeah.
And then we continued that series when he came to Lethbridge.
And we were so pumped during that series that we started a second one called Apologetics. And so we were doing 2 series simultaneously. That one was just getting underway, but then
No funding for any of it.
Yeah.
And then we kind of just looked at each other one day and said, this isn't really sustainable. And
Well, once we're now actually in an office together in Lethbridge, trying to go, okay, we actually need to find a way to make enough money to make this work and do all those things. That's when those critical decisions where it's like, okay, well, how do we actually organize this in a way that's sustainable, that allows us to do this permanently, right?
Yeah.
And then we were actually having lunch with Reverend Van Eyck, and we were talking to him about this, of like, we kind of want to find a way to make this work a little bit more. And he kind of breathed a sigh of relief of like, I've been kind of waiting to see how this was going to work, because up until now, didn't really know how you guys were going to make money off it. And that's when he suggested, you know, we need to form a board and we need to find funding for this. So,
it's a tough road if it's just it's not for profit. Right? It seems you have to show value. But obviously, you guys are doing work on Faith Inc., where you're like bringing value to organizations that need video content. I mean, you just started working with RP too. Doing our video content. People can go check out. So going to be new things coming out on, you know, really well produced new things coming out on
we're excited about
social media and stuff like that. So by the time this comes out, it's going to be out. So appreciate your work on that. But like organizations like you mentioned, like ARPA Lead, and like those guys obviously need video content. They need film done that tells stories well and impacts people. Then on the faith to film side, where you're building things for people in general, where you could just go access it for free. It's a bigger ask to be like, well, can we have, like, you got to go out and find money from just Christians, and Reformed Christians.
Oh, for sure. And especially when it was just the two of us, that felt like an impossible task, right? Now we have a board of directors who are kind of able to go out on our behalf and kind of, it's not just me and David saying, hey, help us pay our bills by like supporting this project we're doing. It's like, no, this is a group. We're together. We have a vision. We have churches involved. We have other members, right?
So, well, and our vision was always to have, for Faith to Film at least, for that to be, I guess our value that we saw was that we're already shooters, we're editors and animators coming into wanting to make theological projects, and almost nobody else is doing that. It's all pastors and theologians, all that kind of category, coming to then video guys and wanting to make projects, and then often it ends up spending a ton of money because they're just guys who are trying to make money in the industry that you're hiring to do these Christian-based projects. Instead, for us, we're saying we don't have the ideas, right? It's not our stuff. We're not coming in with, like, Essential Truths was ours, but it was real basic. Just we want to cover all the fields. But even in that, we want the pastors giving us the information. We're not telling anyone what to say or what to do. we were just coming up with the topic sentence.
Yeah.
But then now with these ones, now that we have a board, now that we have people supporting us, and kind of different pastors starting to get involved, more of a community that we get to talk to, we're really leaning on them for the projects. And so that's where Reformed Confessions came in. That was a project that we're just starting now. That was our first one with the board that the board's actually voting on and saying, we want to do this project. It was decided as a board that that's what they want to be doing. We talked to a bunch of different pastors and just people who we thought would be interested in these kinds of projects, got their ideas on it. And so we kind of landed on this pretty big project that we've got going right now called Reformed Confessions.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Then it doesn't. Yeah, it feels like it doesn't come from you then, even though like guys doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
No, that's good. But yeah, we're really excited about this Reformed Confessions project. So it's basically, we obviously have the 3 forms of unity. We have, the Heidelberg Catechism, the Canons of Dort, and the Belgic Confession, and then also the Westminster Shorter and Longer Catechism. All these great, foundational pieces of the Reformed faith. Yeah. And yet there's not really video content doing those articles justice, right? And so it's, obviously a perfect fit for us who love taking these kind of theological concepts and making videos for them. Yeah. Well, we should make a video version of all these different confessions, right? And so we're starting with the Heidelberg Catechism, but the idea is to eventually have a video for all of them. And so that's
a big project.
Yeah, it's a huge project. Like it's going to take years and years, right? Is the idea, but we're starting with the Heidelberg Catechism, and we're going to do a video for every Lord's Day. And we've already shot 5 Lord's Days, and we haven't started releasing anything. But by the time this is out, the hope is that the website is live and the first few videos are live. So you can go watch Lord's Day 1, Lord's Day 2. You can see the video. There's going to be commentaries underneath it, sermons, and it's the website is a resource in and of itself. Yeah. With then all of our videos attached to each Lord's Day.
And so with us not being actually attached to a denomination, all denominations, if they want that content out there, they need to do it as that denomination. Right. But for us, as just kind of tying ourselves to the Reformed Confessions as our, what would the word be?
Like we're not attached to a denomination. We're just Reformed Christians, and that's who the target audience is, and that's who we're trying to cater to. And that's such a big thing that we're excited about with this Reformed Confession series is like the hope that it's going to unify a lot of these different Reformed denominations, right? There's so much division amongst churches. Reformers kind of lead the way in that, in some sense, and so it'll be nice to have this series not being attached to a denomination, where we're able to just say, this is a place where reformers can come and share, and like obviously we all have like-minded faith, and so to be able to come to a place where we agree on something.
Yeah, that's really valuable because a lot of times these projects get a label, right? Like this was produced by the URC or the CanRC or whatever. Yeah. So that's really good. So where's the end? Where's the funding coming from? So the board decided that you guys as the board decided this is a great idea.
Yeah. We had a board meeting and we said, okay, we've all voted towards this. We need to start funding. During that meeting, it was said, they were saying, we think we can raise the first 10,000 that we need. So 10,000 was to make the website, and then the first two videos.
The first 2 videos.
And the first 2 videos. That's what we came in.
Lord's Day 1 and 2.
Lord's Day 1 and 2, and so which is obviously it includes a lot of like the animation style and the systems we have to create for that. There's a lot that goes into those first 2. But the biggest thing is the website itself, and there's includes all of the confessions, not just Heidelberg Catechism. So it's going to be a pretty big website right off the bat. So they were saying, I think we can do this in a month. And so we were like, wow, a month? That would be crazy if we do it in a month.
Yeah.
And then
you guys haven't raised a dime before.
Yeah, exactly. And our board's telling us, we can have it in a month. And we had it within the week. 24 hours.
24 hours.
It was 24 hours, and we had the first. And so obviously that's just to kick things off and get started. And we have huge goals and huge ideas of where we want to be taking it, and kind of breakdowns of. And that's just that one project, but obviously there's other projects on the go that we want to do as well. But we're just really like it's just such a blessing to have that as quickly as it was, and just so that support so quickly of like, okay, maybe we can do this. Maybe this is there's the support there. There's the desire in our communities to have this kind of stuff, and so that was really encouraging.
How was that funding done? Just broadly, like you said, you don't want to pigeonhole it to a denomination. Was there just
Yeah, it was just fairly local to start. Like, we weren't very loud about getting out there. Like, we obviously have our website and a bit of a following. We didn't even push to our audience at all or send out a newsletter that we were trying to fundraise this yet. Right? It was even kind of an intentional decision from the board to do a little bit more of a silent raise the 10,000, because once we have the website and the first 2 videos up, it's a lot easier to then push out to everyone. Like, this is the idea. Instead of trying to explain a concept, it's like, here's the website. We want to have a video now for every single Lord's Day, and this is what we're trying to raise money for now, right?
That's great. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's the wisdom that I guess the board has to know, where the funding is or the thing is soft. Because it's easy to have an idea and be like, I think we may be able to raise something. It's harder just to set up like a GoFundMe or whatever and just be like, hope people give, and you're kind of like, you got to feed your family.
Well, and the biggest thing for us is also accountability all of a sudden, right? It's like, we didn't like the idea of people donating to us, and it's like, well, they don't know what's going to happen, especially with a Kickstarter. You're just giving the money, and it's like, there's no proof of what's going to happen. There's no accountability there, and we didn't feel comfortable doing that. And so for the longest time, we just said, all together, like, maybe we don't go nonprofit, we just do it for free as long as we can. But John's idea is actually doing it officially as a board, and he showed us really the accountability that we can have through that. Everything needs to go through votes, and we need to be sending in paperwork, and we have people watching it very closely now, and that just feels so nice for us. It's like, oh great, the accountability is there. We get to just make the projects as we can and do it in the way that they tell us to, right? And so that's been such a blessing.
Yeah. You guys have like a crowdfunding method too?
And that's what's really nice about the Great Commission Foundation, is because it got us going legitimately really fast, right? Like, it takes a couple of years to be an official charitable organization on your own, but we're able to run through them and issue tax receipts immediately, right? I don't know if you've ever heard about the Great Commission, but a lot of the organizations out of the U.S., like the Bible Project and Knowing God, I think, was another one. They use the Great Commission Foundation to be able to issue tax receipts in Canada. So the Great Commission Foundation is a nonprofit in Canada that just allows organizations to run through them.
You're like a department or like a division of
exactly. And they take care of all the accounting and stuff like that. And so you immediately just get charitable status basically through them. So it's really nice that way.
They also help to make sure then that we're financially doing things, above board and organized. So they're sending out the charitable tax receipts as well for us whenever people donate. And so I know the Into the Light guys as well. They've got set up on the Great Commission.
Yeah, that's who actually referred us to it. Is we were having a conversation with them, because some people said, "Oh, you got to talk to these guys. They're kind of like you, but down east." Right. And so we started talking to them. And we were asking them questions, and then immediately found out this is how they were able to do it right away, right? And so that's been a pretty big blessing. I think eventually we'd like to have our own status, right? Especially if this gains some momentum.
Well, especially if you're working on like a 2-year project, that's like,
yeah,
that's big.
Well, like, I mean, this is going to be our lifetime work, right? I don't plan on going anywhere, and I don't think David does either. So
we hope that the Reformed Confessions project is at least becoming kind of a pillar for us. But then we're hoping to branch off of. We have all other project ideas that we're working on and going to be doing alongside of it. But this project really feels like a lifelong one, because you can just keep creating more content for it, advancing it. Like, obviously, to make for Westminster longer, shorter catechism, Belgic Confession, Gensendorf, like, we've got a lot to do there. But then also, once those videos are done, is expanding content on it, having more commentaries and more. We want to do kind of quizzes and stuff on each page as well, so people who are studying it can then fill in a quiz and test themselves, see if they know the knowledge. Like, just continue.
The possibilities are endless with the reformedconfessions.org site. Right, like you said, we could be expanding it for a lifetime and still just continue to add on top of it. You could do like children's cartoons or something, right?
When they're not going anywhere, like, we've had hundreds of years of having these these documents.
They're tried and true.
So
I think to digitize it, right?
And for sure. I know the Into Light guys. Like, we had them on too a while back and talking. I think they're doing the same thing, creating the documentary or series that they made. Is like a core thing, but there's so much other content to create around that. So I think that like they've been blessed to have funding too to continue their work, because that's you could literally spend your whole lifetime doing one thing, and that would be huge value to the Christian community. So, I was going to ask you about this Confessions series, or like all the content, like what is that all going to look like? The video side of it, like, are you having guests on, obviously, to you're not going to come up with all the stuff yourselves.
Right. Yeah. So we're doing each Lord's Day, we're doing a different minister. And well, actually, each minister is going to do 2 Lord's Days. So by the end of it, it's going to be a series with 26 different ministers, each doing 2 Lord's Days.
Just for the Heidelberg Catechism.
Just for the Heidelberg Catechism, yeah. And so that's actually a pretty exciting side of it too, because then we get to use a bunch of different ministers, and then also a bunch of different denominations, right? We're not saying, oh, it's got to be a URC minister, it's got to be an FRC. That's adding to the kind of blurring of the denominational lines, right? Is we get to use all these different ministers from all these different denominations speaking about these Reformed confessions that we all believe.
Speaking of them, as well as old episodes for you guys, I believe episode 74, you guys had Reverend William Buchenstein on.
Yep.
So he did Lord's Day 1 for us, right? Wow. And so he's that, and then
he's great.
Oh yeah, he was awesome, and so we're super excited to have him as the Lord's Day 1, and then I think he did Lord's Day 43.
So you guys are flying around to go record all this stuff?
Yeah, well, like we said, we raised the 10,000 to do the first 2, and then the website as well, and we were able to do those because we filmed Summit on the Faith Inc. side, where we work with different organizations. We do daily videos at Summit, and
which is a like youth
it's a youth conference that takes place in Calgary, and so William Buchenstein was there in Calgary at that time. There was a bunch of ministers, right? There was 10 or 11, and we were able to pull 3 of them aside and start filming with some of them. So,
and we're trying to use areas, and so if we're looking at probably in I think January going to Ontario, and when we're there in Ontario, we're doing a bunch of stuff, but then also we're going to see how many pastors we can get from that area that we wanted in the series to then do it in that time, and so you're not going back and forth all the time. So we're trying to be as efficient as we can to get the videos, and we also want to get a lot done very quickly. We want to be very efficient in how fast we get all these projects done, and so that's going to mean being efficient in our shooting and quick about setting them up, right? So,
Wow, it's a big project.
Yeah,
I mean, but you'll find people in Ontario. This is
I think
moving to Alberta. It's a lot more scattered. There's people. There's you got to look.
Got to go up to the mountains or something.
It's just not many people, but go to the Hamilton. You'll find you'll
for sure.
About 1,000 people.
Yeah. Well, and our board is very connected as well, and so that's nice for us. That we go, who do you know in that area, and we get a bunch of suggestions of men that they recommend as pastors to speak. So
we're always looking for that.
Yeah.
You just tell our to send things.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Hopefully they send us some stuff. So. Just more about the Faith Inc. side too, because you guys work for profit, I guess, on that side.
Yeah.
Who are you working with? You mentioned you're with church and with doing web stuff. Maybe describe some of that. Like, what are you guys doing? I'm sure there's people who are listening who work for organizations that be like, we needed a video. And,
so that actually, because Mark Penninga, the executive director of Reformed Perspective, that's how we actually got in touch. So we were talking about with Summit, we do those daily videos. And he has kids who went to Summit, and then he saw the videos that we created, and then he reached out to us that way. Right. And so we're doing daily videos for Summit each year, and then Reformed Perspective pulled us in, and we started now. You mentioned earlier the news that Reformed Perspective is doing now. We did the graphics package for that, and we edit that each week. And so that's a really exciting project.
But almost all of our contacts have been coming to us very kindly, right? And so as soon as we build a relationship with one group, obviously being in a Christian industry and reformers who are trying to help each other, we're all trying to, fulfill the Great Commission and get out there. And so we've had a lot of support that way. As soon as we get in contact with them, they're getting us in contact with 3 more people.
You're gonna hire some more shooters and producers.
But
you get busy quick.
Exactly. But we've just we've not had to go door to door at all, right?
Yeah.
It's been coming.
It's been pretty incredible. We can definitely feel God's hand in it, because it is not our wisdom that's gaining clients and connections. He is just, the doors have opened and he's bringing them to us, and we're very.
There's a lot of trust and obey as the main thing, and then it just comes. So
right. Well, that's great. Cool. How does that when I think of like you mentioned, you do church websites and stuff like that. Like, what are some of the things in that world that matter in terms of storytelling and telling, presenting Christian faith to the world through a website and stuff? Because there's a lot of stuff that's out of date. I'm sure there's a lot of organizations that are how we really need to get this done, but no idea how to go about it. Even if they're not going to call you, what are those core things that you guys focus on?
We noticed 2 major things specifically with church websites that that we wanted to try to help out with. The one was SEO perspective, right? And so creating a website that actually does well on Google, that you're seen, and then also converts people who are coming to your website to want to be in your church. And so that's creating something friendly, using graphics and videos and photos, and really having a presence so that when people come to your church website, they feel at home right away, they feel like they want to get involved, and they feel like they're not totally new to the church because they already kind of know it because they saw the website. And I think a lot of the time we lack from that perspective, especially with all these tools now. We have things like Church Social, which a lot of people are on. And now as a member of the church, we're not using the website as much. We're using our logins for, our system, and we have the back end, exactly. And so now the front end is really just a tool for evangelism. We're trying to get people to come to our church and see us. And we're not, I think, making websites that are directed towards that as a focus. And so that's the first thing we do. The second focus for us is, and what we noticed basically was happening in churches, is it's all committee based, right? And so we have these churches who are deciding we need a new website, and then they make the new website, they hire somebody to do it, or hire somebody within the church to get involved. It might be an elder from the church, and then after a couple of years, he's not in council anymore, and so then that goes to the wayside, and then 8 years later they go, we need a new website again, and then they make a new website, and then it goes. And so we do everything as a subscription service so that we can be consistently their web guys, consistently the guys just there helping them on their website. And we've done that by being kind of like very inexpensive in the sense of actually what it costs per year, much less than what you would pay for making a new website. But then, and so that they're not having to pay more for that service, but then that allows us to actually help them over a long period of time, which is what they actually need. They need whatever, whoever's in council at the moment, they need to be able to come to whoever's in charge of that, who's consistent, who's professional, and who is up to date with all the new web stuff. And so that's been our model.
Yeah, 100%. Because I've been part of stuff where the website was made by somebody who was on a committee, and then he might be in the industry, but then he's off the committee, and this is kind of like a thing I was doing voluntarily, and now it's like 5 years later, I'm kind of done with this. Yeah. And then you try to like even update the context for council or something even hard, right? So that's true. Yeah. And there's a lot of back end stuff for people in the church. I actually noticed when we moved to Calgary, we came to visit the summer before. I think we were in the summer, we came, in the fall we moved, and we were ready to do Church Social in the summer. When we came, we said, we're going to move, like, for sure. So they were like, here, get on this.
Nice.
And that was huge. But like, if you're not part of the community already, how do you connect with the church before you show up to the church, right? So that to us is like something we might take for granted, I guess, right?
Like the website is basically the virtual front lobby of the church, right? It's so important for that to be welcoming and for people to know right away what it is they're looking at, right? Because there's so many Christian organizations, you need to clearly express what you believe and why you believe it, and have lots of pictures of the people at the church and feel like you're part of it, because we're becoming a very antisocial society, and it's very easy for people to just window shop churches, and that's what people are doing. That's the reality, whether that's good or bad, that's what people are doing. And so it's important for that first impression to be a good one.
For sure. Okay. I mean, there's still I could talk to you guys all day. I wanted to talk to you guys about film in general, or like media in general in the world, because obviously there's more content being created now on people's phones, and everyone's making content, right? It almost seems like if you're not making content, you're not even living. Which I'm not then. Just this.
No, you're living for sure.
So why is it important for our Christian or maybe Reformed community specifically to be putting this content out, especially the stuff you're doing with Faith of Film, where you're putting out stuff on the Heidelberg Catechism or Confessions, or your Essential Truth series, why is it important to get that out in the world? Why do you feel that specifically?
It's in the world, not of the world, I think is the focus for us in that. And it's very blurred lines when it comes to the internet of how we manage that. And so for Kyle and I, we've taken it upon ourselves to try to become experts in that, right? What is a way that we can use the internet in a way that honors and glorifies God still? That's a good way that doesn't, it seems like everything forces you in the internet to then be involved in worldly things. And so it's not just being in, like being of it in a way. You have to be part of Facebook then to be involved. You have to be part of YouTube and its community and things like that we don't really want. And so Kyle and I try pretty hard and work pretty hard to find solutions for that don't mean we have to be part of those areas that we don't need to be, because it is just a tool, and it's unfortunate that it's being used for such evil mediums consistently. But I think we still need to be there. We still need to be seen by them so people can come here, but we don't necessarily need to be of it in that capacity. One way that we do that is we try to bring people, for example, to our website. Right? We put it on YouTube. We hope people can see it on YouTube, and maybe we get people from YouTube coming over to us.
You'll get banned on YouTube.
Yeah,
For sure.
Eventually,
and, or like Rumble, and you use the different services and Instagram, Facebook. We try to be seen by everybody, but we're really trying to direct people towards the website. And I think as Christians, we need to start doing that more. We need to create our own ecosystems online instead of using the platforms that are currently being used by everybody. And so hopefully Faith the Film can be one of those things. We think we can do that because we have such a focus on web design as well. And so we're making really good websites and that are, cutting edge. We're going to stay on the cutting edge with it and design things that are worth coming to. And then also have the video content that's worth coming to as well.
Yeah, it is a weird balance for sure, right? Because you want to carve out your own area, but then if you do that, is nobody going to go to it, right? That's the big challenge. I know you were talking with the OFAD guys, and they said we need to build our own infrastructure, right? And I think that's a really good point. We want to have our own infrastructure, and that's what hopefully reformconfessions.org and stuff like that is. But at the same time, everyone's on YouTube, everyone's on Facebook, and so do you just go away from those areas because those are bad, or do you go to those areas and try to shine the light in those areas? And get in front of people with some better content, right? And these are discussions we have all the time, and we don't, we go back and forth on like what the right answer is, and we're gonna continue to go back and forth on that. I think.
Well, that's good though, because people come to you and they might they expect you to have thought about it. I think. That's what, and then maybe not have the answer, but have it unanswered. And it's like, this is how we're gonna go about it, because it's. Like you said, like you could be on YouTube and stuff, and there's lots of people trying to like conservative media people are going into Rumble, but there's like very few who are just doing that because it's really hard to like monetize what their platform, what their media medium needs.
Exactly.
To make money, they need the viewership. So that can these you don't want.
Like I think a big one too is like if you can build enough of an audience, it becomes easier to transition away from those platforms, right? But at the beginning, that's where you need to be. You need the algorithm helping you out and showing you to people
while still being on there, trying to get people off of there. Right. And so that's our concept is post it, be current, have the stuff there, but really recommending and trying to get people into these different systems. And also, we're like very open to partnering with other people. As we said, we don't want all of these micro ecosystems either. But as a Reformed church, as wider circles, there are things that we can do in collaboration to make something worth going to. Right? And so we're really hoping for like a revival in that sense over the next little while. I think things are getting deep enough and crazy enough between AI and the world as we know it, that we're moving to an area that maybe we actually have some room here to do something big.
On that idea of like building our own infrastructure, that's one of the things I've been thinking about a lot while editing these Reformed Perspective news clips, right? That's what's so exciting about that. That's like an exact example of what we need more of, right? Is like Christian groups creating Christian content for Christians. We just don't do enough of that.
And not serious like theological.
No,
like, basis,
exactly.
Which is like just saying how it is.
A Reformed perspective, right?
Exactly. But like I see what you guys are doing. Like it's a great thing because you're not just like not your own organization in that you're like Reformed Perspective's competition or something. And Reformed Perspective honestly doesn't view like any like even the Christian magazines as competition. I know Mark often meets or the other magazines and like, figures out how we can all work together. Because we really want like it's almost like you want to put their links on your own website. It's like let's get this all together because if you have a place that we can go as like a landing page that becomes a Habs, you put that on your phone. And that's where you go for news and for everything, right? So having you guys like build part of that is
we talk about that often too. Actually, is that we honestly it doesn't have to be us, and that's what's so nice about you know, being Christians in this space, it's not competitive. We just want this out there, and we want Christians to increase their presence online. If someone else comes along and does a better job than what Faith to Film is doing, that's great, because then somebody's getting a lot of awareness and lots of people are watching Christian videos, right? It doesn't have to be us. We just want to see, you know, God glorified on the internet more than what is currently happening.
Which isn't much, isn't more.
Yeah, which isn't much. Yeah, we're doing kind of a disservice to ourselves as Christians. I think there's a lot of room to
lot
grow.
of it, I think, has been hesitant to get into that space because of the
negative connotations. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But now we're like, you're kind of like Christians hoping it just goes. But now it's like
it's clearly not.
Yeah. Well, appreciate it. This is a great thing to be thinking about. For everybody, and you know, obviously, people should be thinking about where they're trying to absorb the content, where they're going, they get it.
Yeah.
So like encourage you guys. I don't know if there's anything else you guys have in your minds that are, you know, you wanted to mention before it's all.
A little bit future projects and stuff, I guess, but
But like Reformed Confessions is kind of the main
focus
one,
that
right?
we want to do.
That's your main big one.
That's the main
we
big
have,
one
like,
for sure.
Yeah, we have other projects that we're excited about, but we're trying to be careful
you-
because
is-
I'm always too quick.
Yeah, I
to
don't
be
want to
I'm
like
so excited
spread
about
it
all
too
these
thin
things.
of like,
Yeah,
you
You
know,
guys
like-
have tried to stay quiet, and now you're like, hey, let's just.
yeah, we're ready to push to the world the Reformed Confessions project. Now.
Yeah.
We want people to be excited about that, and we want people to use that
Yeah.
and to be sharing it with people within their church as this great tool that hopefully continues to grow over time. But
Is your apologetics series out?
So we released that. It was an awkward timing because we were starting to release the episodes of that. We had 6 shot, and then and we released the first episode, and then we talked to John about starting Reverend John Van Eyck about starting the board. And so as soon as that happened, everything had to stop. And so we were doing newsletters at the time. We were very consistent with our posting, and that was over a year ago now, because as soon as that happened, it was, well, everything's got to stop. We got to hold on and see what's going to happen with this. Otherwise, it's going to get messy as we're in the middle of a bunch of projects and we're online and telling people what's coming out as these transitions are happening.
Right.
So we went kind of dark then for a while there, right after releasing the first episode and shooting 6 of them. And then through the creation of this, now we have the new Reformed Confession series, obviously coming out with the board and with their approval. And so now we're those projects, finishing off Essential Truths and the Apologetic series and continuing those. We hope to continue to do that. We're not sure whether it's going to be cleared through the board or if that's one thing that Kyle and I are just going to donate our time to get those projects at least cleaned up from where they are, hopefully get to continue them in the future. But the big focus right now is just pushing forward on the Reformed Confessions project.
Yeah, right. Man, it feels great to like have something in the back recorded.
Yeah.
yeah, no, it is tough, and it was just awkward
Like
timing.
we said, Kyle, it's like Kyle, you look back later, you're like, it wasn't produced.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're already getting that, right? It's like, why
just to get it to people.
I just feel bad for the pastors involved and stuff as well, right? Because we get to shoot with them, and it's like, no, it was really good. It was great. We're not, but
release it.
yeah, exactly. So.
Fortunately, we haven't do that with the podcast yet, so that's good.
yeah,
that is good. That's a blessing.
No, man, appreciate like everything you do. It's like just hearing about you now.
well, thank you so much for having us on.
Go into the world, you know. Like,
for sure.
Yeah, no, that's the idea for sure, and God's blessings on Real Talk and continuing to do that as well.
Appreciate it.
It's pretty cool that you have this platform that you can give people like us a bit of a platform to come on and talk about what we're doing.
Yeah,
so
totally.
we're
Really
very thankful for it, and
hopefully it has some kind of impact. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
carry weight, but if our listeners, like we talked about it off camera, I think, but if our listeners want to donate, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, for sure. So through our website, probably on the donation page.
So that's on faithtofilm.ca.
Yep.
Is where they're able to go and donate. That'll probably be in the description and things like that as well.
Sure.
But
The other thing for people to do would be the newsletter. And so we're trying to get as many people on the newsletter as possible. That's the focus for knowing what we're doing, what we're working on at any time.
Awesome.
Don't be watching subscribe on YouTube, please, and have that there. But focus on the newsletter, what we're doing there. We can update you of what's going on, as well as then that transitions to actually getting to the website and checking out the content there. So sign up for a newsletter. If it's on your heart, please donate on faithtofilm.ca.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate you coming on.
thanks for having us.
Really informative. Everyone gets something to think about. We try to make these like inspirational and but also informal. So really appreciate that. Appreciate everybody for listening. And I guess next time. And all the best.